Beethoven's music. Beethoven's music was not mere entertainment, but a moral force, a higher revelation than all wisdom and philosophy. His music directly reflects his powerful, tortured personality. Beethoven's demand for perfection meant long and hard work. Sometimes he worked for years on a single symphony, writing other works during the same period of time. He carried musical sketchbooks everywhere, jotting down new ideas, revising and refining old ones. The final versions of his works were often hammered out through great labor. Beethoven mostly used classical forms and techniques, but he gave them a new power and intensity. The musical hair of Haydn and Mozart, he bridged the classical and romantic eras. Many of his innovations were used by composers who came after him. His works, great tension and excitement, are built up through syncopations and dissonances. The range of pitch and dynamics is greater than ever before, so that contrasts of mood become more pronounced. Accents and climaxes seem titanic. Greater tension called for larger musical framework as Beethoven expanded his forms. Beethoven was a musical architect who was unsurpassed in his ability to create large-scale structures in which every note seems inevitable. But not all of his music is stormy and powerful. Much is gentle, humorous, noble, or lyrical. More than his predecessors, Beethoven tried to unify the contrasting movements by means of musical continuity. Sometimes one movement leads directly into the next without the traditional pause. He also greatly expanded the development section of the coda of sonata form movements and made them more dramatic. We're going to listen to Beethoven's Fifth Symphony in C minor, Opus 67, written in 1808, the first movement. The Fifth Symphony begins with the most famous rhythmic idea in music. It's a short, long motive. It goes like this. Da-da-da-da. And then it repeats. Da-da-da-da. Beethoven reportedly explained this four-note motive as fate knocking on the door. It dominates the first movement and also plays an important role later in the symphony. The entire work can be seen as an emotional progression from the conflict and struggle of the first movement. The first movement is titled Allegro con brio, which means allegro, a fast tempo with vigor. The first movement is an enormously powerful and concentrated movement in sonata form. The melodic ideas are kind of compressed. The first phrase is really short, maybe just a couple of phrases. Its character is determined by a single rhythmic motive again, da-da-da-da, from which Beethoven creates an astonishing variety of musical ideas. So listen for that motive throughout the entire work. Briefly, here's what's going on. The exposition starts with the main theme. At about 1:18, you get the bridge or transition. At 1:39, there's a really quick pause, and you get the second theme in the horn. At 2:05, you get a closing section, and at 2:25 is the repeat of the exposition. So it plays the whole thing over again, exact. At 2:55, there is a big pause, and then the development begins. Listen for the opening theme that dominates the development. Da 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 da. At 5:22, you get the recapitulation. It's really hard to tell, and there is really no pause, and the entire orchestra plays the opening movement instead of just the strings. At 7 minutes, you get an extended coda. Now, this is kind of unusual because this is the first movement and not the final movement where you would expect to see a long extended coda.